It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah! Woo! This week, starring special guest, Broadcast Quality. Yeah! And thank you, band. Thank you, audience. I don't think our band is actually Broadcast Quality. Serious doubts about that, but it works in the context of the show, and we will talk about context momentarily. There is the chat room. All right. Hey, Gloria, Robbie, Adriana, all the regulars, Mary Band, Jesse, Russell, all the guys and gals, and probably some pets are here as well. So I've been dying to do this show, and I've had to push it back a couple times. So I'm glad we're finally getting to it today, because it's something that you see the words broadcast quality everywhere these days. And I mean, if I can be so immodest, and Lord knows I love to be, the phrase started here as it relates to music. Broadcast quality was a phrase that they used to describe video cameras. If you would look at like maybe a 1980 version brochure for a Panasonic broadcast camera, something they'd shoot TV shows with, it would be described as broadcast quality. However, Taxi has been around so long that when I started the company, there were only two kinds of quality. There was demo quality, and there was master quality or record quality, big fancy studio quality. So there were, even though that was three descriptors or three adjectives for the same thing, two kinds of quality, nothing in the middle. And I don't want to make a blanket statement that broadcast quality, as we know it today, is always in the middle, because it's not. It's so contextual. But today's show is to help you guys understand and think of it in terms of context. So I had to come up with a phrase when we were writing listings that described that quality. I remember back in the day, way back in the day, saying to somebody on the staff, it doesn't have to be Michael Jackson good for a TV show. And it didn't. And it was tough. I've moderated a lot of panels where we've had A&R people from record labels or publishers on the record side of things. And when they hear a song and they don't know what to do with it, they'll say, well, that would be good for film and TV. And now sometimes they'll say, well, that's broadcast quality. And it became kind of a garbage dump for people that didn't know how else to critique something or what else to say comment-wise. So that's what I'm here to do today, is to help you guys figure out what broadcast quality is in many, if not all the contexts, that's hard to say, that I can come up with. So I've talked about demo quality, broadcast quality, record master quality. And demo quality, look, demo quality could be something that I'm looking for my phone. It's in my pocket, but it could be something you record on your iPhone. You could do demo quality in a studio with an SSL console and Pro Tools HD and $3,000 microphones, and what you're doing could still be demo quality. All right, so there you go. We got that covered. Now, what we're going to do today, we haven't done this in a while, is we are going to play. I've got, by the way, Sophia is going to join us at the end of the show. Today is officially her last day. It was going to be last Friday, but I wanted her to come on the show today so you guys could meet her in person if you didn't at the Road Rally, and wish her a bon voyage. Hopefully she'll be back when she gets her visa stuff worked out. But so we've got Nick, producer Nick, moderating on the other side of the wall, and Sophia will come in and join us. I see Scott Hansen has now joined us, so the party can officially begin. So what we're going to do is play 10 things that Nick picked for today's show from the many submissions that we got on Facebook, and you guys are going to vote +1 if you think that what we're playing is broadcast quality, -1 if you think it's not. Now, here's the deal. I don't want any commentary about, I don't like this song. It's not about, do you like the song? Do you like the piece of music? Um, and understand that broadcast quality, like I said, does not always mean recording quality. So keep that in mind as we listen. And I can actually hear you guys through the wall over there. So keep it down. Sophia and Nick, I can hear you. It's totally distracting me. Anyway, okay, so we're going to proceed. And the first person on the list is a gentleman named Henry Winkle. And this is an instrumental cue called Aqua Vien, I'm butchering the name, Aqua Vien Peligro. Here Comes Danger. And remember, we are only commenting on the broadcast quality aspect. So here we go. And don't vote until it's done. All right. That was from Henry Winkle. That was Aqua Vien Peligro. Here Comes Danger. Cast your votes. +1 if you think that's broadcast quality, -1 if you think it's not. And I'll ask you for comments in a little while. Amanda asked, does broadcast quality include the quality of the instruments? Yes. Russell's going to wait until I give my opinion, then he's going to vote. I love you, Russell. You're a very smart guy. All right, so I think all +1s. Um, okay, yeah, I think that it was all +1s. So here's my take: is there are many times that that would be considered broadcast quality. There are different levels of broadcast quality depending on the context. Would that be a cue? It was kind of a tension cue, a little bit of suspense in there. Also, one of those procedural, they call them procedural cues on shows like CSI, where they're putting stuff in the that thing that spins around. I can't remember the name of, and looking at it through a microscope. You'll hear music like that in the background as they're examining the cellular makeup of a whatever. So Now, going back to context, in a reality show, yeah, let's say you've got the Kardashians and you've got, I think his name is Scott Disick, I think. Um, and he's trying to make a birthday cake for his wife at 4 o'clock in the morning when she's upstairs sleeping. And he's trying to be really quiet as he's putting the ingredients in. So you could kind of in a tongue in cheek way, use this CSI like procedural cue in the background or as the background for him making this cake, right? It would work. The recording quality on it was pretty darn good. The mix was pretty darn good. It wasn't great, it wasn't record quality, but it doesn't have to be in that application. There was one synth sound. I think it went wow, 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 wow. And that sound was like stuck out a little bit from the rest of the mix. And I didn't think it was a great sounding sample. So it kind of brought the whole thing down a little bit. But overall, it was pretty darn good. And in some contexts, there's that word again, that is broadcast quality. Now, let's take that same piece of music and try and imagine that in a major Hollywood blockbuster film, and it wouldn't be considered broadcast quality in that context. So there you go. It can be broadcast quality sometimes and not broadcast quality other times. So all of you guys said that it was broadcast quality. Um, let's see what you guys thought. I'm curious to see what Russell thought. Now that I've weighed in, Russell, you can give your opinion. A little delay there for those of you who are watching the archive of the show. Uh, Everybody's doing, hi, David. Hi, Andy. Hi, Andy. Hi, David. All right, stop with the hellos. Participate in the show, you guys. Come on. Um, Alex Fernandez Fox says, assumed for TV, tension track, reality, etc. Yeah. Um, and it works for that. And you know what? There are different libraries that hold their bars at different levels, and they will all tell you, all production music libraries all say, we want only the best, only the cream of the crop. And you go to their website and you listen and you go, that is not so cream of the cropish. It's kind of ironic that sometimes they want, and you can't blame them. Of course, they want the cream of the crop, but they also know that they can put stuff out there that's B plus or A minus, and it will in fact get used depending on the context. Um, Russell says, oh, geez, I'm on the spot. Hey, I'm always on the spot. It seems broadcast quality is more than the quality of the recording, but also the performance and the arrangement and the use. Yes, that's context. Um, was very repetitive, but cues usually, ever a smile says, was very repetitive, but qualitative enough. Yes, cues are often very repetitive. Crime scene, tension, mystery. Yep, know that. It's hard to tell through my little computer speakers. I know, and it's tough to tell. You know, look, I play stuff off of my speakers and through the microphone in the camera because it's so hard to switch back and forth without feeding, having audio feedback. And when you get feedback in Ustream, it then mutes everything, and it's a big pain in the butt. Plus, I can't talk over the music, so for the moment, it just works out best to do it this way. But okay, there wasn't a huge amount of movement in the piece. There wasn't, but I don't know that that really affects the broadcast quality answer that we're looking for. Um, but that could be mastered and work just fine from what I can hear from miking the NS10s in the room. Okay, so let's further define broadcast quality using Robin Frederick's incredibly good book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV. On page 165, she says there are a few questions about broadcast quality recordings that frequently come up First one is, what does broadcast quality mean? A broadcast quality recording is the result of several things, all working together and working well. Instrumental arrangement and performance, vocal arrangement and performance, recording and mixing quality. 2, can I record broadcast quality tracks at home? Let's start with a reality check. Can broadcast quality recordings be made in a home studio? The answer is an emphatic yes. That's the reality part. Now comes the check part. If you've never recorded anything before and you want to end up with something that sounds like a slick pop rock radio hit, then the answer is no, that's not going to happen right away. However, if you want to record an unplugged version of your song, just guitar and vocal, that's something that you can do at home with a little knowledge and some basic equipment. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that's applicable for me to insert right now. How good does my recording have to be? The short answer is it needs to be as good as other songs in a similar style that have been used in film and TV. Why? Because that's your competition. Listen to songs that have been used successfully in commercially released movies and TV shows. You'll find a list on page 310 of this book. These can give you a good idea of the type of arrangement and the quality of the performance and recording needed in a wide range of styles. You'll be surprised at how simple some of these recordings are. So there you go. It's context, I'm telling you. There's no easy answer, but you will definitely leave this show today knowing more than when you got here. So I think overall Henry's piece is fine certainly for reality shows, possibly even for a CSI, probably not for a big budget feature film. Compositionally, it's in the ballpark. Recording wise, in the ballpark. The mix was in the ballpark. And yeah, you could find tons of examples of stuff that's not as good as Henry's piece that have made their way onto TV. So I say I agree with you guys. It was, in fact, broadcast quality. Okay, moving on to number 2, which is called Forever and a Day. This is by Nathan Nasby, who's actually on the show right after the Road Rally. Nathan came in with Helen Austin and Paul Otten and, oh shoot, I can't remember her name. I can see her face, I can't think of her name. Anyway, we had 4 of them in the studio. Nathan was one of the 4 members after the Road Rally, and very nice guy, very talented guy. So let's listen to his song Forever and a Day and see what we think. And remember, we're not judging it on the song, we're judging it based on Michelle Lockie, thank you. We're judging it based on, is it broadcast quality?
I left you a letter in a bottle and then I tossed it out to sea. And I watched the horizon, hoping love would find its way right back to me. Oh, yeah, I'd wait forever and a day, because I tasted your sweet love and had it fly away. Still I would sail on an angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste a little misery just to have you close to me. I'd sail on an angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste your sweet misery, 'cause you are me. I woke into a morning where the wind and the waves were crashing over me. When I turned, I could see you and your smile that was all the strength I need. Oh, I would wait forever and a day, because I've tasted your sweet love, yeah, it's here to stay. And I would sail on an angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste a little misery just to have you close to me. I'd sail on an angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste your sweet misery, 'cause you you are all I need. I would sail on a angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste your sweet misery. 'Cause you are all I need.
All right, that was called "Forever and a Day" by one of my favorite people from Canada, Nathan Nasby. I just sent him an email the other day making fun of hockey and beer. Anyway, he's a good-spirited, or good-humored guy, and took it well. Um, okay, so cast your votes. +1 if that was in fact broadcast quality. -1 if you think it was not. +1's coming in quickly. Thumbs up, clapping hands. Jim Carvalho gave it about 8 pluses in front of that one. Um, Interesting. Couple of people gave it -1s. I'm curious from those, and it's funny. All the -1s are coming in late in the voting. Um, it's almost like they did mail-in ballots. So, all right. Here's why I think that it is broadcast quality. And oddly enough, it says indie rock in parentheses. Indie rock, 3 minutes. It wasn't really indie rock so much as indie folk. Um, Not rock anyway, but well done. I thought the recording quality was pretty darn good. I thought the mix was pretty darn good. I thought the quality of the vocal was pretty darn good. There were a couple places in the mix where I would have liked to have heard it a little bit louder because it sounded like it had meaningful lyrics. So now there's an example of context. If this song was going to be used in what they call a montage, which is where the scene is just video and no dialogue and no voiceover, but the song, the lyric of the song is completing the thought and telling you basically where the script is going and the story is going, then that would be, I believe it's a featured vocal use. I forget now, they changed the rules on that, but I believe that's a featured vocal use if it's in the clear and there's no dialogue. And in that case, the lyric would become key, and I would want to hear the vocal loudly enough without being obnoxious about it that it told me the story. I wouldn't want to have to search for the words. Now, in the same song, if it started out in the clear with no dialogue, and then the dialogue comes in and the song gets ducked down, so it's laying underneath, then at that point, it's more about the emotion and the vibe and almost the texture of the song, completing the whole feeling that the scene is supposed to give you and contributing to the emotion of the story. But the lyric becomes far less important. So the relative level of the vocal becomes less important. So for those of you who gave us the -1, uh, and I like that Alex Fernandez Fox says his wife said it reminded her of the show Parenthood. We've had a ton of Taxi members have their music in Parenthood. And see, that's a great example of not broadcast quality, but a song that is usable and syncable and licensable. If you can imagine where it can be used, then it's probably got a bright future. So those of you, there were a couple of you that voted -1s, that you didn't think that it sounded like it was broadcast quality. So I'm curious to hear what about it that you thought was not broadcast quality? And while I'm waiting for those answers, Rebecca Ann Curtis comments, every time someone says montage, there's a South Park song that comes to mind. I don't know which song that is, but I love South Park. It's a great show to make you feel like a kid when you're grown up. Can't believe it's been on forever now. I don't know how many years, but it's been on probably longer than any show I can think of on TV and remains great. They haven't jumped the shark yet on South Park. I liked the song. I thought it was a little boxy sounding. Um, could be here in the room. Could be the sound of my speakers, but the kick sounded like a hammer. Um, I think that was. Let's go back and play a little bit of it. And I'll tell you what, I think it was a loose skin on the kick drum, and it's a style. It's a sound, and I thought it was appropriate for the type of song it is.
Misery, just to have you close to me and sail on an angry sea and bet on the wildest dream and taste your sweet misery, 'cause you are all I need.
Of course, there's no kick drum really in the section that I'm playing. Russell Landwehr says it's indie kick. He's right. I agree with him. Yeah, that's a stylistic thing, and that's actually a pretty current sound. You know, if you used a 1980s, I'm trying, like a kick drum from the band The Cars, it wouldn't work in this song. If you used a kick drum from a disco song, it wouldn't work in this song. But if you listen to other acts, the Avett Brothers, why can I never remember the name of the other group that is so huge? I always want to say Fletcher Munson Curve, but no, that's an audio term. What is the name? The Brothers. Not the Avett Brothers. Lumineers. It sounds like Lumineers. It's in that ballpark. Mumford and Sons. Thank you. Or Sanford and Sons, if you're old enough to remember that show, or Sanford and Son. Anyway, I like the kick. I think it was appropriate for the genre, made it sound contemporary, and yeah, the loose skin was the effect. Nathan says, "Yep, I was going for the indie kick vibe. Loose skin was the effect. I think you did it well." Okay. Waddy JP says, I'm getting old. The mind goes first. Oh, my mind was gone so long ago, Waddy. All right, let's move on to number 3, which is called Ignition 2.0. And this is by Slinger. Let's have a listen.
3, 2, 1. Ignition! Turn me on! Ignition! Turn me on! You got the extra touch with you. Light up my life, light it. Make me step up, rock back. Everywhere all the time. Did you? Did you?
All right. That was Ignition 2.0 by Slinger. And I want to comment, I see a couple of you guys in there talking about censorship on the show. What Amanda meant was that Ustream's chat software censors certain words, like it doesn't like contractions, and it doesn't like URLs and a few other things. So she didn't mean that you should be censored or that we are censoring. It's just she was trying to tell you that it's auto censored. So there you go. Hope I stopped that little squabble. Okay, going back to the song Ignition by Slinger. So, cast your votes because I want to see what you guys say. +1 if you think that it is broadcast quality, -1 if you think it is not. And then we'll talk about it. And while you guys are voting, I will be sipping my Rockstar Pure Zero. The flavor is called Punched. It's actually really good. Thank you to the good folks at PepsiCo for sponsoring the Road Rally with Rockstar, keeping everybody awake all weekend long. All right, almost all -1s. There are a few people who, Scott Hanson's giving it a +1. Yes, Scott, I believe you are the only person so far to give it a +1. And some people are saying that that depends on context, which it does. Hard to judge the sound quality from the webcam. But, it's all, everything is being heard through the same microphone, same speaker, so it's all kind of relative. Okay, my feeling on it is that in most contexts, it's not broadcast quality. Dave Slinger says ?1, and I believe it's probably Dave's song. So now here's a scene where you probably could make it work. Let's say you're in a TV show, and there's a garage band of young kids, like young teenagers that are rehearsing in the garage. Excuse me. And the camera is ostensibly inside of a car that pulls up in front of the house to let somebody out. And as they walk up their driveway, the kid that gets out of the car, his big brother, is in the garage with the garage band, and they're rehearsing. Could you use a few seconds of that and probably EQ it to make it sound less thin, harsh, and brittle, and have it work? Yes. Would you be able to find other stuff that would accomplish the same thing and not sound as thin? And this was pretty piercy. A lot of information in the 1 to 3K range, 1,000 hertz to 3,000 hertz. So they don't call it hertz for nothing. Makes your ears bleed. And it was just piercy. There were also some sections that were distorted. Now, something that you may not have considered is, and Dave, you can definitely tell us, was this recorded way back when? Because remember, there are companies, there are publishers, one in particular that has done really, really, really well for a lot of our members, taking old vintage recordings, some of them done in the 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We get into the TEAC 4-track world, and it's amazing how demos that you would listen to by today's Pro Tools standard and go, oh my gosh, that demo sounds really bad. But when you need somebody or something that sounds like it was recorded in 1975, it's more about the song in the context of that placement, not so much about the fact that you did it, on a TEAC 4-track. So it was uneven. It was hard to critique mix on the show, but it did sound harsh, high-end, heavy. I'm just trying to read some of your things. Skateboard video. I hear stuff like that in Tarantino movies. Yeah, stylistically you could. I think that they would have to work on EQing it. Um, Needed more clarity between the vocal and the instruments. Yeah, there were times the vocals were really loud and really piercy. And then I went searching as a retired engineer. Um, I could actually hear the bass in there. I could hear the drums in there. Um, so Dave Slinger says, "Yep, it was recorded 20 years ago, and I'm trying to bring it up to today's standards." So there you go. Yeah, you could probably pitch that if you could get it. It actually had some distortion in there. Um, but yeah, you could work on remixing that a little bit and giving it more bottom end, less top end, definitely less mid range. It's very mid rangey, and it might be usable. Um, Need some ozone maybe. Multi-band compressor may have helped that. Uh, Dave says no individual tracks. Well, you could try running it through Ozone or something. Using some mastering software on it might be able. I don't know that you're going to be able to get rid of the distortion though. And Dave said I didn't really know it was that bad until hearing it compared to the other stuff just now. Context. So I thank you for being gracious enough to say that. Um, you know. Uh, this is an issue. People don't always hear their own stuff in the context of the world. They know their own thing so well, and they look at it kind of myopically. And I think it's very gracious of Dave to say that, and be brave enough to submit his stuff and submit it to public review, if you will, and to point that out. So good for you. Um, Scott Hansen says there are only 6 deluxe pizzas left. Order yours now before they're gone. If you can deliver one to Los Angeles, Scott, I'm in. Um, on the previous song, you sure that was a bass drum? Yeah, I believe Nathan Nasby, who's the guy, said it was. Dave Slinger, who's this song, the one we just heard, if it's a strong track, I might be able to re-record it with today's gear. Is it a strong song? It's the strength of the song is because it works in that vintage, older context. On its own, compared to songs that are on the radio today, doesn't sound like a hit to me. But if somebody was looking for a song that sounded like a garage band, and I'm not talking about garage band software, I'm talking about a band that's practicing in a garage or that type of music, yeah, it could work. Um, Okay. Matt Vanderbo says probably much easier, much faster, just start from scratch rather than trying to fix it. All right. Moving on to number 4, which is called City Girl, Country Girl. This is a country rock song by Nomad, and I may start playing not the entire song, so please don't think I'm turning your song off early because I think it sucks. I'm doing it trying to make the time deadline work, and we'll know what we need to know as far as whether or not something is broadcast quality or not before we get to the end of the song. Anyway, so here we go. City Girl, Country Girl by Nomad.
wearing no blue jeans. With an old straw hat and cowboy boots, well, she still looks fine to me. She's a redneck girl in high heels and pearls, but that's alright. Yeah, that's alright. She's a lazy lass with a touch of class. She's my city girl, my country girl. She's all I ever need. My best of both worlds, baby. Always right for me. Loves me all night, loves cornfield night. She makes it feel just fine. She's my city girl, my country girl. She's all mine. She can sing it like Shakira, she can shoot it like any old. But when it comes to how she likes to love, and I'm the only one who knows. She was my city girl, my country girl, she's all I'll ever need. My best of both worlds, baby, all that's right for me. From those neon lights to those cornfield nights, she's a mix of it's just fine. She's my city.
All right, there's the famous Lasco fade right there. And once again, that was City Girl, Country Girl by Nomad. Cast your votes. +1 if you think it's broadcast quality, -1 if you think it is not broadcast quality. And then we will talk. Somebody mentioned that it's not really fair to judge, the sonic landscape, the EQ curve, if you will, of what you guys are hearing because it's coming through the speakers and then through the mic in the webcam. I agree. I don't know what you guys are hearing on your end, but I do know these speakers. I've had them forever, and they've been my go-to speakers to make records on back in the day. So I'll comment, and you guys will just have to trust me that I know my monitors. And all right, almost all +1s. Mary Ban says, I'd really like a copy of this one. Go for it. City Girl, Country Girl by Nomad. I'm sure if you Google it, you can find it and download it, and there you go. Okay. Russell says -1. Wow, Zach Nelson and Matt Vanderbo getting into a lengthy discussion here. All right, so here's what I think. Overall, that was really, really well recorded and well mixed. It did sound a little bottom shy in these monitors. I had to double check myself, but I could hear the bass, but I could hear the top end of the bass. I didn't hear a lot of low end on the bass. I could hear the kick drum with the bass, but I didn't hear quite enough of it in the mix. It didn't sound like super thin and brittle on the top end. It didn't sound particularly mid-rangey. So for me, the issue, just because I know these monitors and I'm hearing it in the room, albeit with my ears to the, I'm listening from behind, not from in front. I should actually turn around, but then you guys would be seeing the back of my head, which would not be all that professional. But it, sounded pretty darn good. I mean, it sounded like a pro studio. Is Nomad in the chat room? I sure hope so, because I would love to ask you stuff about it. So Nomad, if you're in there, say, yeah, I'm Nomad. Scott Hansen wants to know why I moved the cow. Will that not hurt the cow's hearing? You're right. The cow used to be, I don't know if you can see the cow. The cow used to be on top of the speaker, and I don't know what got into me, but about a week or so ago, I moved the cow down. I think because I came in one morning and saw that the cow was very close to the edge, and I thought that the cow was going suicidal, was going to jump, and I didn't want to come into work the next day and find a dead ceramic cow on the floor. So I moved the cow to a bigger space where he's less likely to jump from. Gareth Ebb says there's a Nomad in us all. Yeah, I'm not seeing Nomad in the room anywhere. Anyway, Okay, and a couple people, maybe several people, brought up the fact that the fiddle was a little bit loud in the mix. There were times I think that whoever mixed it was trying to feature the fiddle, but then there were a couple other times I went, that's competing with the vocal. Overall, absolutely broadcast quality in almost any context. Where would you use a song like this most frequently? As background source music? A couple of people walk into a saloon, a bar. It's a fun place. It's a Friday night. There are 100 people in there, and maybe they're line dancing. They're certainly doing shots and beer chasers, and you hear music in the background. The music is coming ostensibly from a source, which would probably be a jukebox or maybe a DJ playing some sort of sound system in the actual establishment. This would be a great song for that. Not only stylistically, but the recording quality, absolutely fine. The recording quality is also good enough that if you wanted it to be more featured, you could do it. It almost sounds like a record. As far as the fiddle being too loud or the bottom end being a little too this or a little too that, easy enough to fix. But overall, it sounds like a pretty pro recording. So that's why I was curious to see if Nomad was here in the chat room. I kind of wanted to know if it was done in a pro studio. I mean, certainly the players um, on that song were pro players, really, really good. So there you go. I'm hoping that Nomad raises his hand. Uh, Oh, Russell says he gave it a number or a -1 because I really like this, and if I really like it, it must be dated. I have to, look, I'm no spring chicken myself, Russell, although I think I'm actually older than you are. We may be in a similar ballpark. And I have to do that all the time. I have to, if I automatically like something, I have to think, okay, I've got to pretend that I'm 20 something and put on my today ears versus what I grew up with ears, which we should all do. Um, Scott Hansen says, Nomad is an island. Very funny, Scott. We can always count on you for good humor. Uh, okay, moving on to song number 5, which is called Something Plain, and it is by Hooked Like Helen. Let's have a listen.
My name is something plain. I wear a coat so I can hide the stains. I attempt to tell, but I'm afraid. Snapshots of violence locked inside my brain. Will you believe it wasn't dead? Will you believe that it was self-defense? So help me God, I'm innocent. It wasn't for the evidence. Will you believe that I was justified? Oh, will my testimony be denied? I'll meet my fate on the day I try. My name is something plain. I've been running faded bloodstream. The engine's beckoning back to sleep. I close my eyes as miles beneath me. The crime scene playing in my dreams. Will you believe it was an accident? Will you believe that it was self-defense? So help me God, I'm innocent. It wasn't for the evidence. Will you believe that it was justified? Or will my testimony be denied? I'll meet my fate on the day I tried. My name is something plain. No shame, it looks like rain.
Okay, something like, almost like a real fake. Very poorly executed, if I may say. Um, all right, and once again, that was Something Plain by Hooked Like Helen. So cast your votes. +1 if you think that that was broadcast quality, -1 if you think that it was not. And while you are casting your votes, I want to address an issue that I saw come up in the chat room, which is people are saying, "Hey, if you're going to submit your stuff, you should definitely, be watching the show." Frequently, when I will probably get an email afterwards. Somebody on the staff will get an email that will eventually get forwarded to me that says, "Hey, I was watching the show, but I couldn't figure out how to get in the chat room." Just a guess on my part. Sometimes people are a little shy and they're afraid to be in the chat room because they don't want to be reviewed and, you know, have a bunch of people tear them apart, reject them, make them feel awful, and be publicly viewed while they're being flogged, which we don't really do in the show. People are more professional and nice. Okay, so I would say that we're getting almost all, not all, but the vast majority of people are giving +1s, a couple of -1s floating in there. And people are saying, "Nice job, Helen." Um, the vocal carried the song, +1. It's cruising music. And I saw somebody say, oh, Andy Gabrus said +1 for a number of uses. I would disagree with Andy. Now, let me go, but let me clarify that. I would say that's a good, clean recording, a really pretty, well executed vocal. The mix was well balanced. There was some little percussion thing that I thought stuck out a little bit, but it's not a deal killer. And I couldn't really nail the genre. And I thought, well, we're not here to talk about the genre today. We're here to talk about broadcast quality. So then I thought about, I go to where would this be used? And I was having a hard time thinking of a scene that it could be used in because stylistically, it's dated. And not horribly so, but somewhat dated, probably back to the 80s, maybe late 80s. And so that limits the uses. It doesn't sound that contemporary. Um, and yet Andy Gabrish, who and Andy knows what's going on, he thought it had a lot of potential uses. So, um, Andy, what are the types of uses you hear for this? Because I'm just one guy with one opinion. I could be wrong. Um, I'm scanning. Sorry, I'm so silent. Meaning, I wouldn't say it's going to be a Mix Money song, Michael. In the background, it would be fine. Big Money, not Mix. Oh, Big Money song. In other words, it might not. I think what Andy's saying is it would be fine in the background, but not as a featured upfront use. Um, so I'm on the fence. From a technical perspective, from a recording perspective, this was a good job. It was well executed, good players, good recording, good mix, well balanced within the mix, and a couple little minor issues, but nothing that is a deal killer. But by virtue of the fact that it sounds somewhat dated, and it was hard for me to think of a type of scene that it could be placed in, that pulls it out of contention as far as um, being broadcast quality. Now, but from a technical perspective, it was broadcast quality. So this is a really good example of what I was talking about early in the show, how context can affect your perception of something's broadcast qualityness. There's qualityness. That's a new word. Stan, I saw Stan ask a good question. Hey, Dean Crepane, how are you, man? Stan asked, does the minor key limit its use? Um, I would venture to say that positive, uplifting music, you see those words all the time in our listings, that those things tend to get used more. Moody, darker stuff, which, might be in a minor key or, bluesy seventh key. Uh, it doesn't, a minor key doesn't make it less broadcast quality, and that's what the show is about. But I would say if I had to personally decide what I wanted to make my catalog of music be, I would record a lot of stuff that is uplifting and makes you feel good, just because I see so many requests for that. Um, Robbie Hancock says it might have worked for a period piece like Donnie Darko, for example. Yeah, absolutely. Can still be used in a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it's contextual. So yes, a piece of music could be again like the garage rock thing. You could that we heard a couple songs ago. There are circumstances where that would work. Um, Not a lot of circumstances. Same thing would be true for this, even though technically this was really good on many levels: performance, the vocal execution, the recording, the mix, all that stuff, all good. But because it doesn't sound like a very modern song, there aren't going to be many applications for it. So you could kind of throw it under the broadcast quality umbrella and say, well, it doesn't sound contemporary. If they're looking for something contemporary, that pulls it out of being broadcast quality in that scenario. Um, Mixolydian is the new major. Nice. All right. Yes, now we're all in the chat room naming, let's see. I can't even pronounce some of these words. Phrygian? Locrian? I hope I'm getting those right. Anyway, let's move on to number 6, and this is called That's Love. It's by Stephen Swanson. Let's have a listen to That's Love.
5 a.m. in the morning, the farmer leaves without a warning and heads to the barn to start his gear. He finds his son there waiting, so anticipating, as they quickly climb the John Deeres. You take the north, son, he says, I'll take the south. Together we're a great team, he says with no doubt. Now that's love, that's love, that's love, that's love. The farmer's wife starts her baking as her daughter's waking. Together a long day lies ahead. She plans to take her shopping, maybe do some store hopping, and pick out a dress in which she'll be wed. It won't be long now before she walks down that aisle. Her daddy'll give her away with a kiss and a smile. Now that's love, that's love, that's love, that's love. And that's not to say there haven't been days of pain. The war took their youngest boy and swept his life away.
And there it is, the fade, the Lasco fade. All right. Cast your votes. +1 if you think it's broadcast quality, -1 if you think it was not. And while you're casting your votes, I want to let you know that when this first started, in the first like 5 or 10 seconds, I thought, whoever engineered this clearly knows what they're doing, and it sounds a tad bass shy to me. So I looked over, and lo and behold, my bass knob on my stereo was a 1/16 of an inch from where it's been for the last 12 years sitting there. So to the folks who I said earlier that it was just a little bass shy, it probably wasn't, and it is in fact, or was in fact, the stereo setting. So my apologies for that. I haven't touched the settings on that forever because I like it to be consistent, as we all do, with our reference monitors. Anyway, this one is getting all +1s except for Gareth Ebbs. I can't tell. He's got a 1, like a space 1, not a -1. I can't tell what Gareth means. But it's really late where he is, so he's excused for putting in something that I can't understand. Dean Crepane says, I wish he would have taken That's Love Hook and sang it up an octave and held it a la Free Fallin' would have given this song a bigger lift. Okay, so I want to let you know that I wrote down the vocal in the chorus is lackluster. Is it enough to kill it? So there you go. I mean, clearly the recording, Gareth says +1. Thank you, Gareth. Clearly it was well engineered, well mixed. The guy has, the right kind of voice for it. But the chorus compared to the rest of the song was a little bit of a letdown. Now, from a technical perspective, you would have to say that this is broadcast quality. I mean, this is, record quality. Now, in a competitive situation where you've got, let's say you're working on the show, you're Frankie Pine, the music supervisor of Nashville, and you are, of course, they re-record everything, but let's say you're working on a TV show and you need a country song and you want something that's kind of mid-tempo-ish about love or relationships, and this song is a finalist. It's a contender for the slot. And let's say that you've got 3 or 4 other contenders for that same slot, and let's say that all things are equal as far as they all were engineered well, they were all mixed well, they were all written well, the vocals performed well. And I know it seems picayune, but Dean brought it up and I had it down on paper. There you go. As I live and breathe, whoops, vocal and chorus, lackluster, okay? So that's the kind of thing that can kill a placement. And you could say, all right, that falls under the umbrella of it's no longer broadcast quality to me because of the vocal performance. Now, it wasn't a poorly performed vocal. It was actually the melody that the vocal was doing in the chorus. If he had gone up an octave, on the third That's Love, even that would have been enough to make it more exciting. It needed a better melody in the chorus, especially when you're doing a chorus that repeats a short phrase 4 times in a row. That's a dangerous place to go, so you better be doing something really good there to make that work. Robbie Hancock is telling Nikki, you can look me up and massage me? Oh, message me. Where are you from? Robbie's trying to pick people up in the chat room. Nice going, Robbie. I'm kidding. I know you're not doing that. All right. So anyway, good ears, Dino, for picking that out. And let's move on because we're kind of doing okay time-wise. The next one is called What Goes Around, and it's by Jay or Jai Sinnott. It's a 6-minute and 30-second jazz song. I don't think we're going to get through all 6 minutes of this, but let's see what we've got. Here we go on What Goes Round. Because of time constraints, I faded it there. Cast your votes. +1 for a forward, not for a forward. +1 if you think it's broadcast quality, -1 if you think it's not. I am really curious. Let's see. Jay Sinnott, I hope you're in the chat room. Um, are those loops, or, I mean, at one point I remember thinking this sounds like a live session. Then there were other times where I went, that could be a loop. I don't know. So I'm really curious to find out. And Jazz Stan says melodic. It was the voting was mixed. I would say probably 70% broadcast quality. Um, but Jazz Stan says melodically it didn't tell a story. Um, do we need it to? And somebody else said, I think it was Nathan said, I don't know the kind of scene where we would use this. So I would say here's the kind of scene: dark nightclub, and it's in the background. Um, could be one of those, you know, dark, the streets wet, it's late at night, dark alley scenes. I could see parts of it being used for that. The bass solo, definitely not going to get used, way too busy. Um, Jai Jazz says it's all live. I win, yes. Well, I question myself, but my initial inclination was these are great players. It sounds live. I thought it was well recorded. The mix was well balanced. The players were really good. Um, okay, so the muted trumpet, got a little annoying because there was so much of it up in the beginning. But it's jazz. So if I'm a music supervisor and you could almost use it, almost, and I say almost. What was the movie that just won the Oscar? Birdman. I don't know how many of you saw Birdman. I have mixed feelings about it, even though the Hollywood Foreign Press seemed to love it. Um, and Michael Keaton was great in it. There were a lot of great things about it, but I saw other movies that I thought were better, but it won. And Birdman, the entire score, I believe, maybe all but one piece of music, the entire score was jazz drums. And very, very, very interesting. I've got to give him a lot of credit for taking a big chance, and it worked. So I could imagine this. The scene where, if you saw the movie, the scene where Michael Keaton walks down the street, goes out the back door. Not the scene where he's in his underwear. I don't want to give the movie away. But there's a scene where he goes to a local bar. And there's 15, 20 seconds where he's walking down the streets of New York City to get to that neighborhood bar that's right by the Broadway theater that his play is in. Could he have walked in the door and this was playing in the background? Could it have played in the background when he was walking down the streets because it has the general tone of the movie? It could have. Could have been used for that. Retro. Okay, anyway, I thought it was really good, and I think that this could get used in the right context, and it's absolutely broadcast quality. Okay, moving on to a song called I Feel Better. This is by Red Cabin, who is known as, well, Red Cabin is Jonathan Foster. Let's have a listen to I Feel Better.
I am less aware
This is Red Cabin, Jonathan Foster. Okay, the quick fade in the essence of saving time. Cast your votes. +1 if you think it is broadcast quality, -1 if you think it is not. Painted Black meets Eleanor Rigby. Interesting perspective. Saw a lot of people mentioning retro vibes, 70s, 80s. Remember, we're only worried tonight about is it broadcast quality within the context of imaginable context. All right, I'm so far only seeing one person who didn't think it was broadcast quality, and that would be Tim Doyle. Tim, I'm curious to see why you disagreed with everybody else. Not that I'm, throwing you under the bus for that. I'm curious, what about it didn't work for you as far as being broadcast quality? Tim Doyle says, "Nice song, not thrilled with the recording sound." And again, we are sending it through a webcam mic, but on my end here, this is a nice, clean recording, well balanced mix. There's nothing about it that sounded like a poor recording on my end, but I understand if it didn't sound that good on that end. Somebody mentioned, I can't imagine, I think somebody said that regarding the song. I think, yes, it does sound retro. Yes, it's broadcast quality, I think, on all levels. And think about Wes Anderson. The guy, what's the movie he did? I think he did it about the kid that runs away from his Boy Scout troop with a 14-year-old-ish girl that lives near where the Boy Scout camp is, and they end up going off almost as husband and wife to start a life out in the woods, kind of. I can't remember the name of that film, but I could see a bit of this song working in that film. All the Canadians are talking about Sloan. Wow, Russell Landwehr says this song reminded me of the retro scene in Vanilla Sky. I thought that was a great movie. It had Tom Cruise in it, and what's her name? Blonde hair, very pretty. Gareth Ebb says, I didn't think it was that retro. Thought it was very Ben Folds-esque. I could go with that. There was definitely a little Ben Folds. Moonrise Kingdom, thank you. Now, for those of you who saw Moonrise Kingdom, this song could almost work in there, right? Cameron Diaz, thank you. All right, moving on to number 9. Anyway, I thought that was absolutely broadcast quality. Number 9, which is called Lucky Day by Zach Nelson, who I know I've seen in the Penelope Cruz, also in that movie. Yes, Zach Nelson, Lucky Day. Let's have a listen. Sorry for the short fade, but I'm feeling pressed for time because I really want to bring Sophia in at the end of the show. Okay, cast your votes. +1 for broadcast quality, -1 if you don't think it was. And don't be swayed by the fact that you guys all love Zach and he's in the room hanging out with you and you know him. Gotta treat him like you've never met him before in your life. You know, we didn't get today that I was hoping we would get was just nothing more than an acoustic guitar and a vocal that sounded like it'd been recorded through the built-in mic in a MacBook Pro or something. Rusty guitar strings, gravelly, too many cigarettes and a lot of tequila vocal. I was hoping we'd get one of those so that I could show you why that can be, even though it's done through a laptop mic and poorly recorded, could absolutely be broadcast quality in the right context. I think all +1s on that one. Birdman drums +1. I don't know if you mean that, Bag of Tunes, in regard to this song or not, but anyway, yes, I agree with you guys. It's broadcast quality, and it's a feel-good song. It's emotionally uplifting. It's sunny. We're happy. Everything is going right in my world, kind of thing, which those tend to get a lot of uses. Adam Avery says, heard it before, still love it. And I think he means that he's actually heard it before and still loves it, not like, been there, done that. Shame that I missed the next section of the song. That's what they all say, Zach. I'm sorry. Anyway, okay, yeah, I think all positive feedback on that. And yes, it was, in fact, broadcast quality. And number 10, we're going to hear The Inspiration, which is an orchestral cue by Stephen Littleton. Yes, Sophia's coming. All right, cast your votes. +1 if you think it's broadcast quality, -1 if you think it's not. I'm going to do a Listerine breath strip because now I've got company. Sophia is here. And I don't want her to have to live through my funky breath. She's laughing. My nose is itchy. Okay, +1 for broadcast quality, -1 if it is not. All right, I'm going to say that we've probably got 80% minus ones. Um, say 80% of the people saying that it is not broadcast quality, and I would agree with these folks. Um, the samples sounded like now it could have been a relatively expensive sample library, but I would say that Stephen needs to work on his use of the samples, his expression, and I forget what you call it, but the samples weren't being used well. They sound certainly better than like old synthy stuff, that's not from a sample library, but the melodically it was kind of all over the place. It didn't have a central theme to it, a central melodic theme. Therefore, that may articulation. Thank you, guys. So because of that, it all added up to nope, not broadcast quality. Too synthy to be real, not really synthy enough to be synthy, says Alex Fernandez Fox. I tend to agree with you. Mary Band liked the melody line. Modulation, expression, and Vera Smile says, pan right for Sophia, please. There she is. Scoot in. Now you're on the other side of the wall. You have to see how uncomfortably close I sit to people.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for sending in your music for this, because nobody wants to be reviewed publicly, but I think everybody benefits from it. So we're at that point in the show where I wanted to bring Sophia in because she has just been amazing to work with. From her first day here, the rest of the staff realized how talented she was or is. Her work ethic is incredible, and she's brought so much to this company. She is going back to Iceland for a while to get her visa stuff worked out. I told her she should actually, and just said this kiddingly, if the people from ICE are watching, but I told her she should go to Tijuana and just sneak over the border like everybody else. But we like to do things properly around here, and she does too. So she's going back to Iceland, and we will miss you so much. But what made you come to the U.S. anyway and want to be in the music industry from Iceland? It's not like we meet a lot of Icelandic people in the music industry.
I know there are not that many of us, not here at least, but it's something that I wanted to do since I was a kid. I was raised in a very musical family, but I realized early on that I belonged behind the scenes because I sucked at playing instruments while everybody else was in rock bands doing great things. So yeah, it's kind of been my mission since I was a kid to come to the United States and work in the music business.
Well, you've done it well here.
Yeah.
Sophia has been, let me get her in the frame better. Sophia has a very key role, or had until like right now, a very key role at Taxi, which Nick Fitzgerald has taken over, and you'll get to know him as time marches on. But every single piece of music that gets forwarded by Taxi goes through Sophia's hands.
Mm-hmm.
So she's the person that takes all the forwarded music and puts it into files and organizes it and sends it off to the music supervisor or the publisher or the record label or what have you. So she listens to all that stuff because she's also the person that largely picks the music that ends up in our top 10 every month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, frankly, I was a little surprised. She's got good ears. And I guess that's racist of me, or not racist. What's the word?
Here we go again.
Well, no, it's that. What do you call it? Why did I assume that people from Iceland wouldn't have good ears for American music? That's what I'm trying to say. Not racist, but nationalistic. No, that's not it either.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
But you do have really good ears, and she brought them to bear for our members.
Yeah. I mean, most people say that Europe is ahead of America when it comes to music and musical trends, but I also made it my mission always to be open for any music, any genre, not just even though I was raised listening to rock, I still like always had to listen of classic hip hop. I try to listen to everything and learn how to appreciate every genre, and I think that has helped me a lot.
Hmm.
And I've also learned more to appreciate different styles of music while I'm here.
And she's such a fan of our members. I mean, she'll get excited about stuff, and she's been in the office on the other side of the wall from me, which can be a pretty boring place to be. Everybody else is down the hall, and we're down here,
Mhm.
in the quiet little hallway that we're in. And I would frequently hear Sophia playing stuff that was really good, and get up out of my chair and stick my nose in her door and go, "Is that a Taxi member?" And with pure delight, she'd go, "Yeah, that is a Taxi member."
Mhm.
And I love these guys. Um,
Yeah, what are people saying? This could be an SNL skit.
Thank you.
I've
By the
actually
way,
met
Michael,
Bjork a
it's
couple of
ever a
times.
smile because I smile a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, ever a smile, ever a smile. Um,
But yeah, it's just been such a pleasure to be able to help members and feature their music and hear all this great stuff and get the chance to expose it for them and encourage them to keep doing what they're doing because at least, I mean, a lot of them are definitely doing things right and it's just awesome to be able
mhm.
to show that to everybody else.
And you've got to watch them or see them progress. How long have you been here now?
It's been almost a year.
And have there been people that you heard a year ago that were a B plus that are now an A minus or an A that
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always going back to the same members and listening to their new stuff, and there is so much variety and so much improvement in many of them, and it's just, I catch myself listening to the same member again and again, even without realizing it, because it just sounds completely different than it did before. So that's very cool too.
she was also very key for a first year staff member. She did a great job at the Road Rally. It was a big part of the conference and making it a success. And the members that met her there loved her, and she helped it all run on time and stay organized. She's very reliable. Is what I'm trying to say. So good job to your folks, to your parents, your family, and to the nation of
Yeah.
Iceland. Um, what do you think what are some of the big takeaways, some of the things that you've learned dealing in this world of independent musicians, songwriters, composers, what
Hmm.
have you, um, like record stuff versus film and TV stuff? Is there anything that sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely learned how to analyze music better, and I wasn't all that familiar with the library business and the publishing business. So now, like you do, and like we learn even through Taxi TV, it's just like, okay, what kind of music could this fit for? Could it fit for a film scene or a reality TV, or is this for another artist to cut? So I mean, that has definitely been a huge part of my learning process here. And then also, I mean, and then also just finding talent,
Yeah.
like, that's just that's been a huge part of it, learning and realizing which one who are the ones that really stand out and are willing to put in the work to get where they need to be to even rise to stardom if that's what they want to do. And we have so many talented people and
Isn't it
so many
amazing?
great bands from all over the world
Yeah.
here that come through Taxi, and it's been awesome. Like, I have a list of artists that I want to be paying attention to see where they are in the next 5 years or 10 years, even because.
I think that you've brought something to the staff because you are from Iceland
Mm-hmm.
that we couldn't find just amongst ourselves, all being Americans, and we are largely exposed to just American music
Mm-hmm.
only by circumstance, maybe by choice. But you definitely brought a different worldview that was much appreciated and really something special that you've got. So anyway, I just want to say thank you.
No.
You've been awesome. We can't wait for you to get the visa stuff cleared up and to come
Yeah.
back. A lot of times I wave goodbye to people and think, well, their time here is done. It's run its course, but I hope your time has not run its
Yeah,
course.
exactly. I'll definitely be back, and I'm really appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, and it's really been a great experience working here. And
We will
I
miss you
wouldn't
so
be
much.
here without you all. And hey, by the way, I was born in Akureyri, ever a smile. So that's
Wow.
where I was born. The trolls of the street were fun. Yeah, they are
I've got to say,
fun.
I definitely want to go to Iceland. What movie was the big movie like 9 months ago or a year ago with?
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yes,
Even
with Ben.
Interstellar, Oblivion, a lot of different movies. Noah was shot in Iceland. It's been, of course, Game of Thrones, the TV series, a lot of them. Even in my birthplace, a lot of these movies in my birthplace, and even some of my cousins used to appear in those shows as
Really?
extras. Yeah.
That's because there are only 150 people living in Iceland,
Exactly.
so everybody's an extra.
And everybody's cousins and aunts and uncles.
Well, you were Iceland's greatest gift to America, certainly to Taxi and our members, and for all the great stuff that you've done for us and for them. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
And we will see you in 6 months, I sure hope. And thank you guys all for being part of
Thank
today's
you
show.
all. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye. We hope so. See you guys next week for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah.